Pale Directive. Training Module 08. Classification. Confidential. Tier 4. Threat Designation. EA-45. Fallen Star. This material is approved for internal distribution only. Reference this designation exactly in all subsequent field reports. Unauthorized dissemination of these materials is a violation of Allied Military Intelligence Protocol. Every documented contact with EA-45 must be filed with the Administrative Office of Sector Redacted within 24 hours of the engagement event. The Earth's atmosphere does not vanish within the radius of EA-45. It is replaced by a window into a deep space environment that should not exist at sea level. This phenomenon is classified as an atmospheric displacement. EA-45 presents as a localized vacuum displacement and a luminous subterranean impact site, most recently documented within the Italian theater of operations along the Gothic Line. The anomaly manifests as a core site, typically located in remote geographic depressions such as ravines, craters, or dried riverbeds, where the physical laws of the surrounding environment are suspended in favor of a localized galactic void. Measurement parameters are as follows. Core temperature is documented at a constant -270.4 degrees Celsius. Internal pressure within the displacement field is recorded at 0.1 pounds per square inch, representing a total vacuum environment. Luminosity at the impact core is variable, ranging from 4,000 to 12,000 lumens, pulsing at a consistent rate of 60 beats per minute. This luminosity is not a byproduct of combustion or electrical discharge. It is the secretion of a luminous liquid isotope. The radius of effect extends between 50 and 150 meters from the impact core, creating a spherical zone of influence that ignores the curvature of the Earth and the presence of solid geography. The central dread of EA-45 is the nature of this displacement. Operatives entering the radius do not report the sensation of being in a hole or a cavern. They describe the feeling of drowning in the sky while standing on ground that is no longer solid. The vacuum is not empty. It is populated by an iridescent nebula, hued in shades of deep violet and ultraviolet, which possesses a physical mass heavier than the surrounding air. This nebula does not disperse or drift with the wind. It settles into the lowest points of the terrain. It occupies the space where the air used to be, creating a visual and physical environment where the operative is forced to look down into a universe that appears to be staring back at them. The institution has noted that the pulsing of the core luminosity suggests a biological origin, though the anomaly is officially categorized as environmental for the purpose of field deployment and logistics. The horizon is no longer a line. It is a perimeter. The core has remained in the same grid reference for 3 years, yet the crater floor has deepened by 12 meters without any removal of soil. All documentation of EA-45 serves to remind the operative that their senses are the first equipment to fail. Upon crossing the 150-meter threshold, unshielded personnel report the immediate onset of an auditory lure. This lure manifests as a constant high-frequency whistle. Acoustic analysis conducted by Department Redacted confirms this sound is identical to the descent of a German SC-500 bomb that never reaches impact. Because the displacement zone is a total vacuum, sound cannot travel through the atmosphere. However, the whistle is heard with absolute clarity by all personnel within the perimeter. The phenomenon achieves this by vibrating the calcium in the human skeleton directly, bypassing the auditory canal and eardrum entirely. The skeletal vibration leads to extreme inner ear distress, nausea, and disorientation. Personnel frequently believe an artillery impact is imminent and may attempt to take cover, leading to a breach of movement protocols. All field reports regarding this contact must be filed using Form 12G, specifically documenting any bone density deviation observed in the surviving unit. This whistle does not fade with distance from the core. It maintains a constant decibel level until the operative exits the 150-meter radius. As the operative approaches within 20 meters of the impact core, a secondary behavior known as geographic permeability begins. Solid matter in this zone, including soil, stone, and existing vegetation, undergoes a total loss of molecular density. To the naked eye, the terrain becomes visually translucent, appearing like glass or deep water. Physically, this matter becomes traversable, as if it were a thick liquid. Trees do not provide cover, and the ground does not provide support. Without the proper tethering equipment, an operative who attempts to stand on the ground will begin to sink into the subterranean layer. This is not a descent into dirt or mud. It is a descent into a luminous, permeable void where the soil behaves like gas. The institution has monitored this permeability and determined it to be a localized state change of matter intended to facilitate the descent of biological matter toward the subterranean core for integration. The rate of descent is approximately 3 centimeters per minute for an average soldier carrying a standard field pack. The violet-hued nebula that occupies the vacuum displacement zone is not an atmospheric gas. It is a predatory environmental factor referred to as the nebula effect. This substance reacts specifically to kinetic energy and rapid movement within the radius. When an operative moves slowly and deliberately, the nebula remains thin and iridescent. However, rapid movement, such as running, falling, or the discharge of a weapon, causes the nebula to thicken instantly. This increases the atmospheric drag within the vacuum, resulting in the immobilization of the operative. Many reports describe the sensation as moving through cooling molasses or setting concrete. This thick substance is physically heavier than the air it has displaced, yet it remains suspended within the displacement field. The institution has identified the hidden truth behind this environment. The stars visible within the nebula are not distant celestial bodies. They are bioluminescent sensors. These sensors belong to a singular massive subterranean organism, of which the EA-45 impact site is merely a protruding lure. The sky you see in the ravine is the interior of the organism. The institution utilizes the EA-45 site for the harvesting of starlight, which is the liquid isotope secreted by the lure. This isotope is of critical importance for the development of experimental military optics and high-altitude surveillance equipment for the ongoing war effort. To facilitate the secretion of this isotope, biological catalysts are required. Field operatives assigned to the Corps are not merely surveyors. Their physical presence and biological proximity provide the stimulus necessary for the subterranean organism to begin the digestive secretion process. The institution acknowledges the hostile nature of this environment, but prioritizes the isotope harvest over the preservation of individual units. The starlight is more valuable than the personnel required to extract it. This is a matter of resource allocation. The organism only produces when it feels something moving inside it. This secretion process is accompanied by a 14% increase in core luminosity for every 180 pounds of biological mass introduced to the radius. All of that, every procedure, every protocol was written after the first contact reports came in. The most critical behavioral pattern of EA-45 is the retinal tracking phenomenon. This behavior confirms the sentient, predatory nature of the displacement field. The visual stars visible within the radius do not move according to the Earth's rotation or any known celestial map. Instead, they move in perfect synchronization with the individual operative's circulatory system. If an operative is equipped with a heart rate monitor, the pulsing of the stars will match the readout with zero latency. The constellations within the nebula are not fixed. If the operative blinks, the stars rearrange themselves into a new configuration. If the operative's heart rate increases due to fear or exertion, the luminosity of the stars increases in kind, becoming a blinding violet glare. This tracking behavior suggests that the subterranean organism is monitoring the biological state of the catalysts provided by the institution. It is waiting for the precise moment of biological failure to complete the integration process. The normalcy anchor for this behavior is found in the maintenance of the A9 pressure suit. Despite the presence of an impossible subterranean predator syncing with your heartbeat, you are required to ensure the copper helmet is painted matte black. This is a standard maintenance task. The black paint prevents the stars from reflecting on the interior of the visor, which is the only way to avoid the visual confusion that leads to equipment tampering and accidental uncoupling. The institution maintains that following this mundane maintenance schedule is the only way to prevent environmental integration. If you die within the radius, your heart will stop, but the stars synchronized to your pulse will remain locked in their final brilliant configuration for the duration of the current harvest cycle. Direct engagement with the core of EA-45 is not a sanctioned tactical objective. However, testing has been conducted to determine the effect of standard-issue weaponry on the displacement field. In February 1944, a squad of infantry from the Redacted Division discharged M1 Garand rifles and M1928, a 1 Thompson submachine guns, into the impact core from a distance of 30 meters. These weapons were used in a desperate attempt to halt the geographic permeability of the ground during a retrieval operation. The results were uniform. Ballistic projectiles do not stop when hitting the lure or the permeable soil. Instead, they enter an infinite trajectory into the nebula. Because the zone is a total vacuum, there is no air resistance to slow the rounds, but more importantly, the projectiles appear to leave the Earth's physical geography entirely. They do not impact the ground or pass through to the other side of the ravine. They continue traveling into the violet void until they are visually lost to the nebula. Ammunition types tested include 30-06, Springfield, and 45 ACP. Both calibers have a 0% effectiveness rating against the core lure. The discharge of these weapons actually increases the danger to the operative, as the kinetic energy of the firing cycle causes the nebula to thicken, trapping the shooter in place. Any attempt to use grenades, such as the No. 36 M. Mills bomb, results in the grenade sinking into the permeable ground and detonating within the subterranean layer. This does not damage the organism. It merely causes a brief surge in the luminosity of the stars, suggesting the organism treats the explosion as a caloric input. Physical damage to the lure has never been recorded by the Redacted Research Wing. The record of what came after the engagement attempts is clear. The point of helplessness is reached once an operative realizes that no amount of firepower can alter the vacuum. Documentation from Sector 7 indicates that an attempt to deploy a Browning M2 HB heavy machine gun resulted in the entire weapon system sinking into the soil after only 3 rounds were fired. The vibration of the weapon expedited the geographic permeability of the tripod's base. The weapon was lost to the subterranean layer. Witness accounts from surviving analysts describe the aftermath of these attempts as a silent gallery. The spent casings do not hit the ground. They float briefly in the heavy nebula before being pulled upward toward the edge of the displacement field. The institution has filed these outcomes under logistical loss. There is no documented case of an operative successfully damaging the EA-45 core. The only outcome of direct engagement is the exhaustion of the operative's oxygen supply and the thickening of the predatory environment. The vacuum is not a target. It is a digestive chamber. Weapons are useless in a space where the ground is a liquid and the sky is a mouth. This has been confirmed across 12 documented contact events during the 1943 winter campaign. All of that, every procedure, every protocol, was written after the first contact reports came in. You are here to serve as a biological catalyst and an extraction technician. Your survival depends on your adherence to the following numbered procedures. 1. Prior to entering the 150-meter radius, you must secure the LC-12 lead-lined anchor cable to a terrestrial anchor point. This must be a tree, rock, or metal stake located outside the displacement zone. 2. The A9 pressurized suit must be checked for seal integrity. Ensure the copper helmet has been freshly painted with matte black paint to prevent star reflection. 3. Upon entering the zone, move at a rate of no more than 1 meter per second. Rapid movement will trigger the nebula effect and immobilize you. 4. You must remain physically bolted to the Earth via the LC-12 cable at all times. The cable is your only link to standard gravity. If you feel the ground becoming soft, do not panic. The cable will prevent you from falling into the sky. 5. Monitor your heart rate. If the stars begin to pulse with high intensity, cease all movement and close your eyes for 60 seconds to reset the retinal tracking behavior. Failure to maintain the prescribed cable tension is a breach of Engagement Protocol 9A. The institution will not dispatch recovery units for non-compliant personnel who become uncoupled. Survival is your responsibility. The institution's responsibility ends at the issuance of this doctrine and the provision of the anchor. The following procedures apply if standard equipment fails or if a breach of the perimeter occurs. 6. If the LC-12 lead-lined anchor cable goes slack or severs, you are considered lost to the sky. You have approximately 30 seconds before the geographic permeability of the soil allows you to be pulled upward into the nebula. 7. If uncoupled, do not attempt to swim or crawl. These movements generate kinetic energy that will cause the nebula to thicken and crush your suit. 8. Operatives who find themselves drifting past the 50-meter mark without a tether are instructed to self-terminate using their M1911, a one sidearm, immediately. 9. Execution of self-termination must occur before the 50-meter mark. Past this distance, the lack of internal pressure within the displacement field renders the firing pin of the weapon non-functional. If you fail to self-terminate, you will experience a total body embolism as your blood boils and your lungs crystallize simultaneously. This is a procedural error. The institution requires that you file a final radio report before the vacuum renders your vocal cords useless. This report is used for meteorological data collation. The institution does not intervene in uncoupled events. Compliance is the only remaining metric for a lost operative. All of that, every procedure, every protocol, was written after the first contact reports came in. The following equipment is mandatory for all EA-45 deployment. A 9 pressurized suit, modified. This is a heavy lead-lined canvas and rubber suit designed for vacuum survival. It is classified as partially effective. It provides a maximum of 15 minutes of oxygen. The copper helmet is the most critical component. It must be maintained with a matte black finish. Any reflection of the stars on the interior glass will confuse the operative and trigger the tracking behavior, leading to hallucinations. If the seal is breached, the body will freeze and boil at the same time. The suits must be requisitioned via Form 4B, LC-12, lead-lined anchor cable. This is a 100-foot tether, composed of reinforced steel and lead braiding. It is effective for maintaining a terrestrial connection. It must be bolted to a terrestrial anchor. If the cable tension is lost, the operative is considered unrecoverable. The lead lining is necessary to prevent the high-frequency whistle from vibrating the cable and snapping it through harmonic resonance. Each cable must be inspected for fatigue after every extraction attempt. MiG-7 gas mask. This item is classified as ineffective. It provides zero protection against a total vacuum. Any operative attempting to use a standard gas mask in place of the A9 suit will suffer immediate lung collapse and death within 4 seconds. It is included in the field kit only for use during the approach to the 150-meter mark if conventional chemical agents are present in the theater. M1911A1 sidearm, issued for the purpose of Procedure 8 only. It is a tool for logistical finality, not defense. All equipment must be returned to the quartermaster for decontamination and isotope cleaning. Any suit showing signs of violet luminescence must be destroyed. Maintenance of your gear is the only thing standing between you and environmental integration. Ensure all requisitions for matte black paint are filed 48 hours in advance of deployment to Sector Redacted. Non-compliance with the maintenance schedule will result in a disciplinary notation on your permanent record. All of that, every procedure, every protocol, was written after the first contact reports came in. Incident Report Number 44, Mars 9, Sector, Northern Italy, Gothic Line. Operative, CPL, Arthur Miller, Serial No, Redacted. During a 1944 campaign sweep, Miller's unit encountered an EA-45 event in a mountain ravine. Miller, suffering from combat fatigue, became convinced the nebula was a reflection of the night sky over his home. He intentionally uncoupled his LC-12 anchor cable to walk home. The institution logged this as procedural deviation, equipment tampering. Miller was pulled upward as the soil reached maximum permeability. His frozen silhouette remains visible in the ravine today, suspended 15 feet in the air, appearing to walk through a solid stone wall that has since re-solidified around him. His last radio transmission was, "The stars look like the lights on Main Street. No recovery operation has been authorized. The silhouette is currently used as a calibration point for isotope harvesting." This concludes the briefing for EA-45 Fallen Star. You are a biological catalyst in a necessary extraction process. The environment is hostile, the vacuum is predatory, and the ground is not your friend. Your tether is your life. Hail Directive. End of module. Compliance is survival.